Hi, my name is Matthew Dickey. You can find me on Instagram at _MADickey_, and my career is I'm a director of development at Gore Society. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'll start with my job here as a director of development, and museums are a nonprofit organization, and all nonprofit organizations, just like any business, need to make money. And but they call it a dual bottom line. You need money and your mission. And so my job is to make sure that we have money to function. And that is done by either asking people for money or going out. You could think about it maybe if you're asking for a really, really big gift, for example, for the grounds and bringing that stairwell back in the house. We might have to, which that project costs $800,000, which you have to raise $800,000. So it's making sure you have the relationships going without your organization, to have the people who are passionate about what you're doing to help support you, and then having events to help steward that relationship and creating a friendship and a bond. And so that's what I'm focused on, is and so that's kind of what I do here. But my career path and about how I got here, that is, it went very different ways. I did go to high school. I'm from Illinois. And I'm actually from outside of St. Louis in a small town called Collinsville. If you look it up, we have the largest ketchup bottle. It's our claim to fame. And when I was in high school, if you want to do like I was always interested in architecture. I was obsessed with it. And I like doing photographs and little drawings of buildings and that. And so in high school, I was actually played a lot of sports teams, but also did painting. And so I really focused on painting. And then I ended up going to art school for college. But at the time, I was thinking about what kind of schools I wanted to do, and I did apply for some architectural programs, but I absolutely hate standardized tests. They're miserable, and so I did really bad at them all the time. So all the architectural schools I applied for, I didn't get in, and so I just stayed home and locally, and went to a local college called the Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, which is where I did art, a Bachelor's of Fine Art in painting, and. I worked at a grocery store to pay for my schooling, where I started off as a bagger and then as a cashier, and that was the longest time I ever held the job. I was there for 5.5 years, because that paid for my school, so I guess it was worth it. Then did that, and did my first study abroad in 2006, which is really the thing that got me interested in travel photography, which has been a theme that I've done throughout my life as a side project. But when I graduated, which happened to be in 2008, basically the worst possible time to graduate in anybody's known life in America. And it was miserable. There was absolutely nobody was hiring, especially not anybody who had a job or a career in art as their background. And so what I did is I said, F that, getting a job, I'm going to do a year of volunteering. And so I'd signed up for this program called the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. And I was actually originally supposed to be placed in New York City when I was going to be working with homeless men at a shelter who created art, and we would display their art and they would help sell it, and they would run the gallery, and I just help coach them along that and help run the space. And that would have been an amazing position, because I focused on my art, focused on something. I got to go to New York City, but then that position, just like my job now, they lost the funding, so it didn't exist. So I basically had 3 days before the start of the program, which I was accepted into, but they had no job for me. And so what I ended up doing is applying to all of the different regions for this organization, and ended up, of all places, in Boise, Idaho. And which is great, because I found my wife there, for one. But I ended up basically packing my bags, thinking I was going to New York City, but ended up in Portland, Oregon, to go to this orientation thing. And then I lived a year and a little bit more, because I stayed a little bit extra, in Boise, Idaho, teaching art to refugee children and English to refugees. And I would say that experience right there, that moment, at that time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was that moment where I was like, these people are inspiring in so many different ways. Because to be any refugee, to arrive in America, you have to be a determined individual. Because they just accept anybody to come here. It's even just to be an immigrant to come here in the first place, you'd be a determined individual. So it was learning about them and working with them that really inspired me to my next move, which was to live not in America. And so I met my At the time, girlfriend, she lived together with me in our program together because we were assigned with strangers that you lived with for a year. And you had to live in an intentional community. And so when we were there, I was like, I don't want to live in America now. I want to go like explore another culture. So I found through just working in Idaho, a person who lived in Peru, or was from Peru and had some connections. So we ended up going to Peru for 6 months, where I taught art to kids out in the Andean mountains, about an hour south of Cusco, and which is where everybody knows Machu Picchu. It's not far from there. And we were basically just in the shadows of these Incan ruins that were just incredible. And so again, I didn't know any Spanish either, I just went. And because you can learn Spanish, I learned more Spanish in 3 weeks living in Peru than I did ever in school for all the years that I had to take it. And so that's why I just said, just do something. And then we were there for a while. It was still 2010 at this point. Economy's still not great. And that's when I started thinking about what do I want to do. Now the economy is maybe picking up a little bit. It's 2010, and I started looking at grad schools. And then I got in my car and drove. Just visited a bunch of different places. And people always ask, how do you pay for these things? Well, in Idaho, we got a little stipend, and I paid for my undergraduate on my own, so I didn't have, and then I ended up getting a scholarship for the last 2 years. So that actually helped me out, but living in Peru saved me money because the cost of living there is so much lower than living in the United States. If I had to buy a meal in the United States, it would be basically the cost of my rent in South America. And so when I just started driving, I stayed at friends' houses or just couch surfed and crashed on people's strangers' couches as I was going to all these schools to visit to see where I wanted to live next. And that's what ultimately brought me to Boston, where I went to BU for an arts administration degree and museum management. Because when I was looking at these jobs, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I enjoyed helping others. And so then I found that position at BU where I could work and then go to school part-time to help me cover the expenses of it. And then I finished ultimately and ended up where I am today, but did a lot of different things between then. And I used to work at a coffee shop where I was curating this art gallery there. And then I got a job working at United South End Settlements right after school, which was a community services organization based in the south end of Boston on the corner of Mass Ave and Columbus Ave. And then I did that. I was doing development work just like I'm doing now. And then from that I went to Raw Artworks in Lynn, which works with kids in art, and when I was a development manager. And then I found this position that I'm in now today at Gore Place, where I'm the development director. And that's kind of the loop that's got me here. And there's always, even though I don't know if this is my career for my life, it's something that it kind of combines interests with hobbies, and that's a good balance. So I think it's a lot of people really trying to question what they're doing and trying to figure out what they want to do, and they do that by experimenting with new roles. And so for me, it's basically, it always comes down to who do you know. And you can meet people by doing lots of things, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, for example. That's what the whole Idaho experience was for me. Put me in a different situation where I would not be comfortable with everything around me. That made me grow as an individual and experience the world from another perspective's eyes, and to see that there are all these other options out there. And so just do something that gets you that experience that you're looking for. But just get out there and experience different things and try it out.